Hi, I'm Susan Kennard, and welcome to the Spiritual Awakener podcast. This is a podcast where I get to interview really cool people from all over the world, from all different walks of life, that have really great stories about turning points or a spiritual awakening that's happened to them, that's led them to work with you, the collective. So I'm really excited to introduce you to my next guest. I met him just before Christmas online. I'll tell you more about that later. But his name is Ben Sowter, and he's all the way the other side of the world. We're in the UK here recording, and he's in Oz. So let's welcome him. Ben, thank you for coming to the Spiritual Awakener podcast. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Susan. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, well, I just when I connected with you, I just felt, I've got to have him on the podcast because I felt that so many more people needed to hear your story, but to also experience your work. Because I actually came across you, I think it was just before Christmas, wasn't it, in 2020? I think it was
Yes.
just before Christmas. We're recording this on the 21st of January, 21. So if you're listening to this later, it was just before the Christmas before now. and I just kind of really was interested in your work. And as a practitioner myself, and working with trauma and using my guides and channeling and so on, like you do. And we'll hear more about that in a moment from you. But I was looking for somebody who could also work with me and hold the space with me. And I think as a practitioner and a healer, I think we all need that. And that was one of the things that's really important for me to share with my listeners is it doesn't matter how long you've been working on yourself, and it doesn't matter how deep you go, you actually need someone else sometimes to take you to that next place, even if it's a nuance that you just need to heal. And I'm always looking to expand my consciousness, expand my light, and stand more fully in my mission. And that's why I contacted Ben. So Ben, tell us a bit about yourself. And it would be lovely to hear a story of maybe your awakening, or, I mean, we have many, right? But maybe one that's really been pivotal for you.
Oh, okay. Gee, where do I start?
Yeah, I know.
Because really, when I was preparing for this podcast, I was thinking about what was the occasion, what was the moment when I was enlightened or became aware of my spirituality, and there was really a number of different moments in my life. So I can't really pinpoint one as such, but one that's maybe the more prominent one in my life was changing state from where I was born in my mid-20s and moving into another state, starting life afresh and meeting my now wife back then and introducing me into spirituality, into mediumship and spirit communication and things I'd never even heard of before or was aware of before. So for me, that was a mind-blowing experience. And because I grew up in a very unspiritual household, so to speak, no religion, no beliefs, none of that at all, and a very logical person as well, I really was pretty much unaware of the whole new way of life, a whole new realm of existence, really. And so for me, that was an amazing experience to look at that and sort of go within myself and learn more about myself. And wow, what else is there for me to learn about myself? Okay, and to go deeper into my being. And from then I began to realize my heart and my soul, those things that I never knew about before. So that was an amazing experience, but that's taken time to unfold. It didn't happen overnight. It took a number of years to unfold as things began to occur. I began to do courses and lessons and have experiences with people and healings and things, research and whatever else. So
did you find you tested it out? Because I know that my journey was similar. Like it was like, I was a psychologist. I was like, the analyst. And then to find all those years ago at age 27, Saturn return and all of that, to sort of resist it for quite a while. Did you test it out? Because I know I definitely did. I was like, no, surely, it can't be true.
Being from a logical background, naturally logical, I was wanting to test things and analyze things. That was my nature, and it still is now. But now I recognize the spirituality behind that as well, the divine within us and the intuitive sense. But of course, I was wanting to make sense of it all and question things, question my experiences. And because I started to realize the things I've had experienced in my life earlier on made sense. All those little intuitive moments made sense now. I wrote them off as being nothing, as being just an imagination, or just a freak occurrence, but actually of anything of any value at all in my
Or the
life.
coincidence that people talk about all the time. And
Yeah,
do you believe there's no coincidence? Because I definitely believe that, right?
exactly. Yeah, synchronicity. So in the past, I think that was just bad luck or just some sort of freak occurrence. But then I began to realize through my learning about spirituality and about the universe, and I actually recognized that there's actually divine timings with things, and things are meant to be in certain
Mm.
orders and certain events. So that gave me a lot of hope and knowing about my life, and explained a lot of things about my experiences.
So would you say, like, if you're listening to this, you might call that destiny? You know, we've got perhaps a destiny that we've chosen. I believe we have a soul's mission, so, you know, a journey for that. But do you believe also that it meanders? I mean, I think that, you know, depending on the path you take, you might go a longer way around it or a shorter way around it, and that might be dependent on how aligned you are, right?
Yeah, from my experience and my beliefs that I've formed over my journey, I
Yeah,
recognise that there are sort of things that are sort of set, and some things aren't quite so set in
yeah,
life.
yeah,
And
I
but
agree.
ultimately, we're wanting to aspire to some goal in life.
Yeah,
Spiritually, our soul wants to aspire to something. So whether we
yeah,
go the hard way or the easy way or the long way or
yeah,
the short way, it doesn't matter. But we get there in the end eventually. But through whatever experience we have, it doesn't matter. It's just about getting to that destination, but learning
yeah.
about ourselves, unfolding spiritually along the way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. And, you know, now at 51, I look back and I go, oh my goodness, look, all those things. Well, I kind of wish I'd done it better that way or that way, but actually it was all perfect to
Mm.
lead you to where you are in this moment. And that, would you say that's the same?
Exactly. The benefit of hindsight's amazing, isn't it? To be able to look back and sort of say, well, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But you look forward in life, it's different. But when you look back in life, you sort of think, yeah,
Mm.
okay, that was meant to be, and that was meant to be. And I was impatient there. I wanted things to happen there. It didn't happen, and had to wait another 5 years for that to happen. And looking back at my life, like it's taken 20 years for me to develop myself
Yeah.
spiritually. It's been a
Yeah.
20-year plus
Oh yeah.
journey.
I think definitely. And constantly evolving, right?
Yeah, of course, and it doesn't
Yeah.
stop now. Like it's still going. So we always are evolving in life. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Mm.
We're always learning about ourselves and about others and everything. So really, it's an ongoing experience. But it's important to recognise the journey
Did
on the
you,
way.
as a child, were you brought up religiously at all?
Not at all. No,
No.
no,
So there was
no.
like none of that. So I was brought up quite religious. So I was confirmed into the church and all of this. And it never felt right to me. It always felt weird, you know, that it wasn't the true thing for me. But of course, we were just brought up in a small village and that's what we did. So you were
Mm.
brought up where there wasn't that faith or there wasn't a sense of it.
Lack of faith altogether. So that's really what part of my journey was, a lack of faith, lack of
Yeah.
belief. And so I had nothing to draw upon. And I had trauma in my life as well,
Yeah.
and being very
Well,
logical. I had no way of
yeah.
resolving those issues in my life and no way of understanding what the purpose of those things were for. So it
Yeah.
took a long time for me to work that out through my own experiences, my own healing, and then seeing other people for healing as well later in life, to work
Yeah.
out the reasons for those things and to learn and to find myself.
Yeah. So what made you kind of step? So obviously you met your lovely wife now, but
Yeah.
you met her and that opened up your whole world in the sense of who you were on a soul level, on a spiritual level. How did that happen? What happened?
Mainly because she was such an influence upon me in my development as well, as being a clairvoyant, a very sort of accurate clairvoyant, and
Mm.
just someone who could speak the truth. And we know that clairvoyants see things, see the truth, and people who speak to spirit beings know the truth. They can see what's going to happen before it happens. They have that awareness of the future.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
we do. We're both obviously clairvoyant mediums.
yeah.
We do, but I also feel like it's the evidence of survival aspect, isn't it? That's really important, and not so much about seeing the future. But we can see the future. But I think it's more about the trust. When you have that connection to spirit, to source, to your guides, you've got that infinite trust, which I think is key of living in the present, isn't it?
Well, you need to have that trust. Yeah, that's one thing I learnt,
Yeah,
was having that trust
that's
in
key,
yourself,
isn't
but
it?
also in that divine essence as well,
Yeah,
and knowing that the purpose of things and they're meant to be in that way. And I agree, as you said, like that connection to the divine and that spirit
yeah.
communication is amazing as well. But my experience was becoming more aware of myself and the divine of God. Like I didn't know who God was or what God was, when I was
Wow.
younger. I had none of that when I was younger, so I was opposite
Not
to you, I
even at
suppose, in a
school.
way.
Did you not at
No,
school get
no
to
public
learn
schools,
to?
no religious schools, no public schools, and so I had no
Wow.
awareness at all.
Yeah.
No need to think about it. No support or focus on that at all. And so it wasn't until I came through my own journey of going through trauma and releasing trauma and finding myself spiritually, I began to be aware of this whole new realm around us and all around us. And listening to spirit beings talk to you and that sort of thing, that was amazing. That was a eye-opening and mind-opening experience for me. So that's when I
Yeah.
began to develop myself.
And did you think at one point, because I know that there's, I always laugh about this, but there's like a fine line between mediumship and madness, right? I believe, right? So being a medium, I can say that. And I'm actually not that mad. Well, some people might think I am. But if you look at that, then would you say that you questioned that in a way? Like, because, if you haven't heard this before, if you're listening to this podcast for the first time and you're listening to this and thinking, well, I hear voices in my head, but actually, is that spirit or is that something else or is that weird? What did you experience in that first time?
Mm. Yeah, interesting, because again, it goes back to that trust and faith that what you're hearing is actual spirit guides and not your imagination or something else.
Yeah.
And I actually had gone through a stage of actually doing ghost adventures and ghost
Did
hunting as
you?
well in my early days, and I actually did hear spirit beings talking in haunted ghost locations.
Was sort of
Um,
outside of you, like kind of you could hear the
they
voices.
did
Yeah.
vary. So some were just just near you, just right there, sort of thing, and disembodied voices, and some were actually in your mind as well. So impressed into your mind.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to know yourself in that location to know
Oh,
what
yeah.
is you and what isn't you. So
Mm,
with any form of spiritual development, you need to know who you are. And that's where I
mm,
began to learn about myself, who I was, and
yeah.
to discern what was my imagination and what was spirit guidance coming through when I was developing myself. So that's
Yeah.
important to recognize for anyone beginning out, is to find and to develop that trust of knowing what is you and what isn't you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think if you come to that and you have trauma or you have some, concerns and worries about things in the world, what's going on in the world at the moment is bringing up a lot of trauma for people, right? We're in this awakening, we might like to call it. And so if you have that, if you notice you have, some worries or concerns, that's not the best time to actually want to connect with spirit, is it? The best time is to just really sit quietly and just start to think about your own healing journey, isn't it? And as you start your own healing journey, that's just my opinion, but I feel that if you come to it in a space of fear, then law of attraction, obviously, the way universe works, it gives you more of that. So it's best to kind of work, would you say, to start to think about it from a really safe space with a teacher that teaches it from a safe perspective, but also to help you understand that we're all this, we are all soul having a human experience, aren't we? So we all have this connection, but what
Yeah,
gets in the
yeah,
way is the dust, the stuff.
yeah. I agree, and that's part of our journey. That's the soul journey, is to work for that stuff, and that's what I
Mm.
recognise in my life, was that that stuff that was so painful for me was actually part of my learning, not something to be ignored and pushed under the carpet, so to speak, which we often do, but actually to own it, to
Yeah.
embrace it, because it often can be your most powerful skills can hide beneath all that
Yeah.
shadow
Yeah.
self.
Your
So yeah, I
mission can
agree.
hide beneath that trauma, right?
Exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
So
so Ben, tell us like how, I mean, I know how you work, obviously, but you tell us and tell my audience how you work with people and how you help them with that.
okay. So yes, I run one-on-one sessions with people, like medical intuition sessions. So I'm working with people to intuitively pick up on their energy body and where their energy body is in misalignment with the rest of their body, and when there's
Mm.
leakages or where there's a potential illness forming in the energy body, which in turn will affect the physical body. Okay,
Yeah. Wow.
and so you're looking at the chakras and the seven chakras and working out where there's imbalances there, which can affect organs
Perfect.
in the body,
Yeah.
and looking at the often beliefs and emotional trauma can be at the cause of those physical dysfunctions.
I would agree with that being mental health. And I would agree that the emotional causal aspect is, we're not, you're not a doctor, are you a doctor?
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not a doctor either. So what our disclaimer is that we're not doctors, but that the emotions are pretty much responsible for the message that's held in the body. And that's kind of what you're saying as well, isn't it? Coming from this.
Definitely, all of our experiences are stored in our body as such, our energy body. So all those experiences we had, good and bad, are all stored there. And when they're extreme, that's when they can have an effect, or long term, they can have effect upon the body and start to degrade the body in whatever part of that body that relates to.
Yeah. And so when people come to you, just so people can hear this and understand it, you can work on Zoom, as we are doing this interview now. So you can do it on Zoom, because obviously we're, I'm in the UK, you're in Oz at the moment. And you can be all over the world, right? Same as me, right? So you can
Exactly.
see it. And what's really interesting is, if you haven't heard of this before, it doesn't matter where you are, because it is just energy. And so Ben can tune into you, and what the guides are showing me here is scan, essentially scan the energy field. And that's what you do, right? And then you're able to tell the person where this energy block is.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. And you run workshops as well, don't you?
Yeah, so I also work with people, mainly like practitioners and healers as well, and therapists, people who want to learn more about healing other people and more about themselves as well. So often people, healers need to be healed first in order to heal other people. And so often
Absolutely. To be
that's a
that clear
common,
channel, right?
yeah. So I do specialize working with other healers and practitioners to heal themselves and to give them those the knowledge and the ability to heal themselves through their energy body. Okay, through the chakras.
Amazing. And more, I think we need that as well, because we need more light workers or healers in the world, don't we, to help other people. What do you, and this might be controversial, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but what's your feeling about what's happening to people at the moment? Because what we're seeing, I don't know what it's like in Australia at the moment, but in the UK, we are seeing, or we're led to believe that what we're seeing on the news is many people passing over from serious disease, right? That's what we're led to see. So what do you feel about that? Are you happy to answer that?
Yep, I have a theory.
Yeah.
I always like to observe things. Being a
Yeah.
logically minded person, I like to observe what's happening in the world and sort of see what might be behind the scenes energetically, because that's how we exist, really, through the energy. So to me, it's a base chakra issue at the moment. So all viruses are relating to immune systems, and that's a base chakra. Okay, and to me, that's basic beliefs. And you can see how people are responding to what's happening now. They're out of fear, and people are not believing what's happening. They're not believing that there's actually even a virus.
There's
So people's
confusion
beliefs,
as well, isn't it? There's a
yeah.
huge amount of confusion. Yeah.
So people's beliefs are being tested and they're being questioned. So people who have little belief or no faith are now questioning themselves and acting out of that lack of faith and lack of trust in our authority figures and whatever else, and even God possibly too. But basically, it's about that lack of faith and trust. And I can see people are needing to heal that part of themselves, and we're going through that shift now of needing to heal that part of ourselves and to recognize that we're all one. That's the biggest thing of all. Base chakra is all is one.
That's quite a step for some people, but I think the fear, I'm with you on that, right? Like, we are a one, and you are me and I am you, and we are, absolutely. But I think, and I have to remind myself of this as well, not everyone is ready to hear that, but they are ready to hear you're holding the fear of survival in your system, right? And they might be ready to hear that. And so that's a key thing, isn't it? Like, if you're holding that fear of survival because you feel separate from you, me, the universe, whatever, and you feel someone has the answers for you, meaning the white co-workers, the doctors, the government, whatever, then you're in that place of, oh my God, well, they don't even know. The hospital can't help me, the government can't help me. So we're in that place of survival, right? So I'm running a free event next week because it's the fear of dying, because all I hear is people feeling that the fear of dying, and that's why they're not seeing people. So this is really interesting what you're saying about the base chakra, because that's our, grounding, isn't it, into being human. Yeah.
Yep, and you can see how people are reacting out of the base chakra fears as well. That they're going very primal. They're going back to these protests and these physical displays of power out of fear, and
Yeah.
that's very much base chakra stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
it is, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. So I'm with you on that, on that alignment with what's going on in the world. But and I also think that, the virus is the toxicity trying to kind of heal out of the body, from kind of like my meta health stuff and naturopathy stuff. It's like the virus isn't really alive. Like, we're led to believe this thing has got legs and arms and a head and can jump from another person on a bottle of water or whatever. But actually, that's a toxicity that is within, right? And then we go and put other things to stop censorship. I'm going to say a thing that you might put in your arm that's that long and made of metal usually, then that's more toxicity, isn't it? Perhaps. Yeah.
Yes, possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big thing to talk about. It's a big
Yeah, no,
aspect of
maybe
our
another subject.
yeah. Yes, it we could be here for hours, but yeah, I have a lot
Yeah.
to think about it too. But really, it is a big moment of change for us all,
Yeah.
and I do believe we need to come together and work together as one. And I think at some stage we will need to do that in order, because it doesn't discriminate against anyone. Like the virus can affect everyone, so that's the
Yes,
thing. And
exactly. And would
but
you
as
believe?
you were
Go on, go ahead.
So yeah, as you were saying before, I actually do. I wanted to put my little 2 cents worth in here. I do believe that our psychic energy, our thoughts and emotions, have created this. It's all one. Like we are all connected. So we're part of the earth. It's not an attack upon us or whatever else that some people believe that we're being punished or whatever it is, or it's come from an animal or whatever it is. It's a part of us. It's a part of what we've done and what we haven't done in our past. So we need to change the way we're living our lives together to reduce that happening in
And
the
that's
future.
a big thing, isn't it?
Mm.
That's huge responsibility. So if you're listening to this and you hear that, it's like, actually, we are the ones that have created this. Now, that is big responsibility. It's the same in your relationships. It's the same in your physical experience. It's the same in your work, in your money, whatever it might be. That is our responsibility. And that goes back down to the vibration, doesn't it, that you're putting out there. So that's a really pivotal thing. And perhaps to take it that bit further, to say, well, actually, yes, you weren't in the riots necessarily. You weren't in that. You weren't being unkind to someone or whatever it is. But actually, the vibration of the collective was that. Yeah. But interesting, I like an analogy where, you can go into a supermarket and if your vibration is of something, you will see couples having a hug. Well, maybe not today, actually, but couples having a hug and babies smiling and stuff like that. And then somebody who's on a different vibration will see an argument or things falling over. And it's the same for here. I had a client that went to the Trump kind of protest, and his experience of it was beautiful. He came back and said, wow, it was peaceful. Everyone came together. It was all loving. And of course, what we saw in the news or clipped up on YouTube was the protest. So he never saw any of that, right? So he was in that vibration of seeing peace and love and harmony and, holding a space. And others were in the difficult space, right? Just down the way. So this tells you that where you are in your vibration is what you're experiencing. I think I need to clarify that as well, that if you are experiencing something, and I'm sure, Ben, you feel this too, if we are experiencing something really difficult, it's not to feel guilty about it or feel a blame for it, but just to work on yourself and heal that fear, would you say? That
Definitely, it's there for a reason to
yeah.
explore, and I think owning it is the key there. Owning up whatever it is, and maybe sharing it with someone if need be, to unpack it. But it's important to own that and to accept that rather than to avoid it, whatever that
Yeah.
feeling is. Yeah,
Yeah. And
and
that's
expression is great. Yeah, yeah,
personal responsibility, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But expression of that emotion is great because that's what happens when we don't express those emotions, bottle them up, all those feelings, all the fears, that
Yeah.
causes illness. Okay.
Exactly. The
Mm.
dis-ease within
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mind, the dis-ease within the body, right?
yeah.
And so your book, tell us about your book.
Yep. So The Sentient Pathway is a book that I co-authored with my wife, Kim, and we're writing about the journey as sentient beings. So as we evolve as a human being on Earth, our sentient nature, which is a spiritual being, learning to be human. So it guides you through the process of evolving yourself as a human being and learning to be a human being with your sentient
Wow.
abilities. So it's
Beautiful.
about learning about your intuitive nature and your sensory empathic nature as well, and your
Yeah.
spiritual nature.
Wow. And so how can people get it? How can they get your book?
It's on our website, so thesentientpathway.com.
Yeah.
So
Thesentientpathway.com.
thesentientpathway.com. Yep.
Great. And they can buy it on there.
They can buy
They can
it
go.
online. Yep.
Yeah. And is that your website as well? So how can
It
people get
is.
hold of you?
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Yes.
So you can get hold of Ben at the Sentient Pathway. Can you spell it?
So that's actually its own website for the book. So
Oh,
sorry, just to clarify that, my website's different.
oh, yeah.
If you
That's
want to
what I was
contact
asking
me,
you. Is
yeah, sorry,
how can they get
it's
hold of
different.
you?
Yeah. So mine's Ben Sowter, so bensowter.com.au.
Yeah. So that's Ben and
Yes.
SOWTER.com. Yeah. Is that right?
.au.
.a.
Yeah.
You say it again. Say it again so everyone
Yep.
can hear it.
So it's bensowter.com.au.
That's the
AU
Aussie
for
bit, right?
Australia. Yes, that's right. Down under.
Yeah, that's cool. And they can get hold of you there. Can they
Yes.
contact you just to maybe have, I don't know, do you do like a consultation, like a free 15 minutes or something? Or what do you do?
Definitely. So they can contact me through the website there, through a form, or email
Mhm.
me, and just to inquire about a free consultation, just to learn about how I can help them, or even ask for some guidance or advice, or whatever it is. I'm happy to talk to people about whatever it is in regarding to health, spirituality, or well-being, whatever it is.
Amazing.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
help out, and that's my journey. That's why I'm here today with you, but also that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I want to help people to know themselves better and to heal themselves. So
Yeah.
I welcome that.
Because it's completely shifted you. I know it's completely shifted me as well in my life, all the things that we've kind of made sense of in our life and healed in our life and our relationships in our childhood. It just allows you to align to who you're meant to be in the world, doesn't it? And
It
then
does it. Yeah, finding out who you are, like you
yeah.
find out who you are through experience, and then you recognize there's a deeper wealth of love and compassion and desire to help others within you.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Ben, have you got any last words you want to say to my audience? Is there anything that perhaps you haven't spoken about, you want to speak about?
Oh, again, I could be here for hours, but
Yeah,
just it's
it's been
great to be
great.
here.
I've loved it.
Yeah. And I really think that yeah, the key is to, I think from my experiences, to know yourself, to find yourself, and really your life is telling you about who you are. All experiences lead up to this very moment now. So if you look back over your life, you see what's happened and where the struggles have been in your life. So the difficult parts, they're telling you where there's untapped power and untapped potential within you to
Yeah,
be released and connected to. So if you're wanting to find more about yourself and to be more confident, more trustworthy of yourself, and more loving of yourself, and more at peace with yourself, it's important to go back and look at where in your life there's been that struggle.
yeah. So sort of,
Yeah.
so what I'm hearing from that is to sort of, work with either with Ben if you feel drawn to work with him, or whoever you feel drawn to, but really go back to those places, not relive them, but just go back to them and just acknowledge them and release them and let them go. And sometimes it's hard to do that yourself, isn't it? It's really hard.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very hard to do so, and even myself, I had to see other people in order to heal some of my aspects as well. So,
Yeah,
as you said before at the start, we can't always do things ourselves. We need to find a trustworthy healer to heal us sometimes as healers. So, I do
yeah.
recommend you find someone, not just me, but Susan or someone else,
Yeah,
to
whoever resonates with you. And I think that the universe,
yeah,
put that message out to the universe. Please help me to find the right person to, to help me heal these parts of myself. And what happens is the universe lines up, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But if you're listening to this and you've really enjoyed our conversation, get in contact with Ben, get in contact with him and just reach out. And even if it's just for sort of a check-in and a consultation to see where he can help you, and even if it doesn't fit, it doesn't matter. It's the first step in the process of you going on your healing journey. And I think that's a really key point, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, definitely. Ben, thank you so much for being on the Spiritual Awakener podcast. I've had a great time. We could have spoken for hours
Oh
about
yeah,
controversial stuff, and I
exactly.
love that.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's been a pleasure, Susan, and maybe there could be a part two sometime. Who knows?
Yeah, who
But
knows? There might
yeah,
be. Well,
yeah,
maybe when you get your own podcast, I'll come on yours.
yeah. Okay, okay. Great
Why
idea.
not? You and your wife
Yeah,
create a sentient pathway podcast, maybe.
yeah. Okay,
That'd be good.
excellent.
Okay, thanks, my love. Okay,
Great.
thanks so much for joining us on the Spiritual Awakener podcast. And if you want to hear my awakening moment, pop over to episode 1, where you can hear about what happened to me one night. And if you've got a spiritual awakening story that you want to share with me and my listeners, find me on susankennard.co.uk. Much love for now. See you soon.